Oh,
It's to be,
here
as
we
it says it's
are.
going. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, fantastic. Let me pull up. Okay, here you and I are. So now I want to just find it on my phone. Okay, there we are on my phone, and I want to just close the other window so there's no chance of an echo. And that was a very uninteresting 35 seconds to the beginning of where we're live. I just saw that's how long it was, which means that from here on out, it's going to be a big improvement. So I want to say welcome. If anyone chooses to join us, let us know, or you watch the replay. I'm kind of looking at my phone to see if there are any comments, and I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. For anyone who actually, there may be people who don't know who I am. I'm Alexandra Stockwell. I'm a physician turned relationship and intimacy expert, and I specialize in showing couples how to have beautiful, stable, passionate relationships. And I'm so excited to have my friend and former client, Kari Lynn Morgan, who also is a relationship coach. And why don't you say a little bit about like whatever you want to know, us to know.
Yeah. Let's see. So I'm Kari Lynn Morgan. I am a mom. I am a former doula, former midwifery apprentice. I'm a relationship and communication coach. I have 3 children. Those are the things that are important to me that you know. Yeah, and I've worked with Alexandra for many years now in some capacity or another.
Yeah, and let's also talk about relationship. You're divorced and...
I'm divorced and I am in, finally, this really juicy, interesting, dynamic relationship with someone else who is also on this path. And that is different, I will say, than my marriage.
You know what? Say more about that, because I think one of the, like a recurring question when I speak or people reach out, it's like, I'm devoted to personal growth. My husband isn't. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know exactly what the question is. It's definitely a frustration. And somehow that comes to mind as you talk about now being with someone who really is devoted to his own personal growth and yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that a lot too. And the question usually, I'll just say the question usually comes as, will that work? You know, does that work to work with you? Can I work with you when my significant other doesn't want to? And short answer is yes, of course. And it's a little bit different. But yes, the difference is when both people are committed to opening up their awareness in a relationship. Things, well, first of all, tend to move a lot faster. And it brings a vulnerability to the relationship, and which therefore brings an intimacy to the relationship that just is, I don't want to say not possible when it's only one person doing the work, but it's a different flavor of vulnerability and intimacy when both people are willing to go there with each other.
I love so much how you said that. And Antiza is here. She says, hi, both of you, with a heart. So that's fun. That's so fun, Antiza. Thank you for being here. Let us know if there's any topic that you want us to particularly address. And yeah, actually what you say, so one of the reasons that I'm doing this open house and talking to different amazing people who've coached with me is because the Aligned and Hot Marriage program is something that I was just actually talking to my coach and saying, like, I think everybody should have this. And I think it's sometimes hard for people to imagine what it would be like. And I say that specifically right now because I've designed the Aligned and Hot Marriage program to be something that it's for people who are partnered, and you can do it as a couple, and then you get the vulnerability and the intimacy that you evoked so exquisitely, Kari Lynn. And then you also can do it yourself or a hybrid. Like if one of you is a yes, go ahead and enroll and do it before Friday night so you get the bonus of the free coaching session that I'm offering. And your partner can like not participate a little bit, participate with you. And I find that usually the commitment isn't equal in any given moment. And that's fine, because so much of the work of having a really fantastic, juicy relationship is individual work. And I think with that, I just want to dive into, so when you and Greg, I'm referring to your partner, obviously, when you and Greg started working with me, like, let's have fun evoking the dynamic. Okay. And Antisa says, I love getting to experience Kari Lynn Morgan in this form. Yes, total treat. I'm happy to share the delectables. So, like, one of those early coaching sessions, what was your experience?
Yeah, this this one in particular that I'm thinking of. So I'm gonna start by saying, okay, one of my core wounds is abandonment, for sure. And
I love how much you say that with clarity and self-acceptance. It is a real wound, and you accept yourself that way. That's beautiful. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's important to know that. And so with this core wound, the way that I carry myself in the world is with a belief that everybody's going to abandon me. And if they don't abandon me, I'm going to make them abandon me, because that's my reality. And so if that is not what is happening around me, it's what I want to make happen, because there's
a part of you wants to.
Yes, I do want to say yes
with these concepts.
Right. Thank you.
A very powerful part of you. a very stubborn, convicted part of you, but not the whole Kari Lynn.
Right. And so then beyond that, if I can't make someone abandon me, then I will abandon them. I will leave. So what Alexandra is referring to is a session that we had early on where we were talking about a topic in our relationship that was very highly, highly sensitive and emotional for me. And I yelled and screamed at her, at you.
Oh, I didn't know you were going to that one.
No,
yes,
okay. I'm not even sure.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
So I yelled and screamed at her, and she didn't leave. I mean, I want to say this because I want to speak to, like, what a great coach you are. We're going to jump right to that one, because I want to give people an understanding that, like, you didn't leave me. And so then what I wanted to do was I wanted to leave. And my partner and I were sitting on the couch, and we're having a Zoom meeting with you. And I got up and, I was trying to leave the room, and you wouldn't let me do it. And I have to say, like, that was really pivotal in our coaching, because it spoke right to that core wound of not abandoning me. And it changed our relationship, yours and my relationship. It changed my relationship with Greg, because then I had an experience that I couldn't deny of someone not leaving me, no matter how hard I tried.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. And that was very early in our coaching relationship. Yeah. And so I didn't know that abandonment is your core wound. Like when I start coaching, I want to address whatever is arising. And there hadn't been anything that had led me to want to know, oh, what is your core wound? And
Right.
it's not a question I typically ask. Not
Right.
everyone even knows. But
Yeah.
what I did know is that you are this fiery, juicy, magnificent woman. And of course, in our culture, that means you are totally at risk for thinking you're too much, unseen, unappreciated, unsupported, and that you don't have permission to be who you really are.
Right.
And that typically means, and I think for you, it means like one of two things. And I think you've done both, which is to get small and hide so other people are comfortable, or to like be the bull in the proverbial china shop, both of which totally make connection impossible.
Right. Exactly.
And that coaching session, like what was so important is that both you went deep in both directions. First, you were like too much and too big and so angry with me. And I absolutely welcomed. I did not want you to dial it down or disconnect from it or anything. Like, I wanted you to, like, the way it's coming up in my mind right now is like, love yourself with all that expression, even though it was venom at me. That was totally unimportant to me. What was important to me is that you felt like there was enough space to express what was in you.
Right.
And so you did that, and I didn't waver. And then you went in the other direction,
Right.
to like leave. And you know, it's been some time, and I don't, like, I'm so in it, but I don't retain everything. But I almost feel like during that session, like you didn't leave the room, but you weren't actually in view on Zoom. It's like it, I was like, okay, it's all right if I can't see you, that's okay, but just stay in the room. And you don't even have to say anything. In fact, I needed to ask Greg, because while I trust my intuition, I just wasn't 100% sure. I was like, is she still present? And he's like, yep.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of things that happened. It meant, as you say, you had a reference point. I love how you put it in terms of the lack of abandonment. The way that I was thinking about it then, before we knew one another more, is that, you know, whether you dialed down or you dialed up, you got to be you.
Yeah.
And that, of course, built trust between you and me. And it gave you the reference point that you've described. But the other thing that it did is, we don't need to put words in Greg's mouth, but he was scared of you when you were angry. And he didn't know how to reach out to you when you totally withdrew.
Yep.
And so he saw somebody navigate the range with you and end up with more love, more trust, more connection, more vulnerability, and a kind of peacefulness before whatever is next.
Right.
And I felt like, I mean, that is something that I consciously do when I'm coaching couples. There's engaging with each individual in a really meaningful, transformative way. But there's also a kind of a modeling that happens, because when we're in relationship, we get used to, whether it's a narrow or dynamic range, we get used to what we do. And I think one of the things that is so profound in couples coaching is seeing like another way out of that tunnel. And now that's in your repertoire, and it's in Greg's repertoire. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but he knows it works.
Yeah. Yeah. He knows it works. He knows it's possible. I
And
know it's
now he's a
possible.
superstar at it.
Yeah. 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 He's really great. He's found his own, I would say, balance. And I don't mean that as, between here and here, but the place where he can, walk the sometimes tightrope of me and not fall off,
Yeah, and I think another element in all of this particular thing we're talking about is that, like you say, but to my observation, it's like you developed a deeper appreciation for his equilibrium when you had more permission for the very vast range that is Kari Lynn.
Right. Yeah, because before I would perceive, and possibly sometimes rightly so, because that's been his work, but I would perceive the equilibrium as disconnection.
Yes.
And, now with the work that we've done, it may look the same to an outsider, someone watching us have a discussion, having a heated discussion might look exactly the same as it did 4 years ago. But it feels different, partly because of his understanding now, and partly because of my ability and willingness to see his understanding, which has been a really big, that was a really big one for me, as well.
It really was, and I'm tempted to go there, but I actually want to ask a different question, which is, you're talking about the difference that came from understanding. And I also think there's something about embodiment or internal reference point or feeling. And so I'm going to ask a question, which I think to you may feel like so simple, but I think it's a question people have. So what's the difference between reading a book where you can get understanding? I mean, even just watching this, someone can have understanding about the dynamic in their relationship. And obviously you and I both hope that if this is a dynamic that, you're watching and you recognize this dynamic, we want you to have more understanding. But what's the difference between having more understanding, reading a book, watching a video, and real-time coaching?
It's a really good question. When you asked that, I mean, my immediate answer was you feel it in your body when it's right. And I want to say, and you, the coach, feels it in your body and feels it in us when it goes beyond understanding.
Yeah.
There's more to it than that. That is a really hard one to articulate.
Okay, well, I'm going to.
Go ahead.
And then we're gonna, and he has another comment that I'll read in a second. When you talk about feeling it in your body, I would say that what you're describing is the difference between understanding and living it.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this in every conversation today, and I say it a lot. This is going to be totally familiar to you, but as mammals, we learn through imitation. And I think you're, in a way, pointing to that when doing live coaching. It's not that you and Greg imitated me. That's not at all the case. I mean, you're in your own relationship, but there's a felt sense of how to be with one another that you can access in a coaching session that is just completely unavailable in a book.
Yeah.
And I'm all for understanding, but I think that accessing that felt sense of how you can be with one another is what it's about.
Yeah. Yeah, it gives, if nothing else, for you cerebral people, I mean, having that felt sense gives you another access point and another place to come back to. Like you do that a lot. I think with us, and I see this with our coaches too, which is, you know, we hit a spot that is the thing, the place that we want to be, you know, like we've said the thing. And you know, we feel the feeling that we are trying to convey, and it comes up, and there's really something very poignant about marking that place. And it's
Yes, it's like if you're on the highway and there's this gorgeous tree, like don't just go by.
yeah,
Stop and take it in. I'm
yeah,
saying that, because the trees are so beautiful during the fall now. Yeah, I think that's true to like pay attention to how
right,
this feels and what you're thinking and what kinds of thoughts
yeah,
so that you can come here again
yeah.
when you lose it.
And when you're reading a book, I mean, like, you can get to that place, and there's something about reading a book or listening to something where you just keep going after that. And it's something that you do really exquisitely as a coach, is to make us stop and notice, so that, you know, later you can bring up in another session, remember that time.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, that's a very, it's a very powerful tool to have.
I also think that it's our minds, human minds are wired to notice what isn't working.
Yeah.
And that's another reason that I do that, that when you have a moment which has worked magnificently,
Yeah.
our minds don't necessarily give it the attention it deserves
Right.
the way we would if it didn't work. So yeah, let me read what Antisa says. She says, Kari Lynn, over the years that I've known you, your confidence in yourself and what you bring and your radiance has progressively grown in such a beautiful and subtle way. What were some of the turning points for you
Mm.
that you felt unlocked some of your bigger gates of your growth, maybe both individually and in your relationship with Greg? And she quoted, I would have too. I loved it so much when you said, you cerebral people. But let's go back to what were some of the turning points for you that you felt unlocked some of your bigger gates of
Mm.
your growth, maybe both individually and in your relationship with Greg? Thank you, Antisa, for that
Yeah,
really lovely
thank
question.
you. Oh, it's lovely. Hi. Hi, Aunt Lisa. I miss you. Um, I think some of the biggest ones, I mean, this happens over and over again. You know, there is that how we do one thing is how we do everything. So when you ask both individually and in your relationship, like, it's all the same. Often. It's these moments where I choose to be true to myself, I think, where I choose to strip away the shame, the fear, well, I'm not even going to say strip away, because that's not true. They don't go away. But those moments where I choose to listen to what's true for me and give it credence and give it validation and give it worthiness to be said and expressed. And without, the thing that I have to go through with that too is even that without that expectation, or despite that expectation that something's going to change or something's going to be different or I'm going to get what I want, like all of that muddies the truth. And so it's those moments when I am willing to say it anyway that I have goosebumps right now, like that are the most powerful for me and for my relationship with anyone.
Beautiful. Antisa says, hi, I miss you too. It feels like we are hanging out in our mastermind all over again. And yes, that's so good. Oh, I love this answer. This is Antisa still. Being true to who you are without expectation of a specific result.
Yeah. Yeah. Because when we're really tapped into that, like there is no specific result. I mean, this comes down to mindfulness. This comes down to, what I say to my couples is I ask them, don't you want to be in a relationship with someone that you actually know? Like, don't you want to be someone that your partner actually knows, so that you can choose where the relationship goes from there?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm currently coaching someone who's a single man who is always challenging me on the use of the word uncompromising.
Mm-hmm.
And without going further into his situation,
Mm-hmm.
I know like you're using different language, but I feel like we're in the terrain of uncompromising intimacy, which of course is the name of my book, and it informs everything that I do, because I'm just a big yes to being who you truly are in the context of intimacy. So will you speak to uncompromising intimacy and what that means to you, and how perhaps I've guided you and Greg in that?
Yeah, it's a path to undo the meaning of that word compromise, for sure, because I think are so socialized to, I'm gonna say it, especially as women, we are so socialized to, I think with our caretaking, to be, just for the sake of peace, for the sake of harmony, for the sake of giving, do compromise what you need, find something that will work for you. And I just, in working with you and in all the work that I've been doing and the work that I see other people doing and the work that Greg has been doing, like, we've been working on stripping away, I would say, even our own oh gosh, I'm losing the words. We're stripping away our own thoughts and feelings about who we are and what we want. And because we have conflict around the things that we want. And so when those things come into conflict, then we feel like, oh, in order to, get some of what I want, I have to give away some of the other, which may be true, but that's not what we're talking about. Because in order to get to a place where both people feel part of the relationship, and like they're not being pushed down or not important, you know, part of what they want is not important, is that we have to both fully be expressed
Yes,
first.
yes, 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 yes.
Because the other person cannot possibly give us what we want if we don't tell them what we want. Like it's just not, and we can't receive it if we don't admit what we want. Like we can't do that. They can guess what we want, but you know what I've learned in my own thing is, even if someone, this was something you said to me once, is even if Greg gave me everything that I say I want, if I am not 100% uncompromising about it, meaning without all of that shame and guilt and all of those things, then it wouldn't be enough from him. Like I couldn't receive it. I wouldn't take it. It wouldn't be the thing.
Yeah, I love how deep you're going with this, and I'm gonna like pull out no, I love it. You know I love it. But I'm gonna pull out to like a higher level, and I'm realizing that a way to simplify this is that really, regardless of what Greg did or didn't do, felt or didn't feel, say or didn't say, I believe in your relationship, you experienced real disappointment pretty much every single day. And whether or not Greg has changed, and I know he has changed and grown. I mean, you've coached together, you've both changed and grown, but that's not the point right now. I don't hear you speaking as a woman who like always has disappointment with her.
Right.
Which isn't to say there's no disappointment. We are not ridiculous. Like we're mature people in long relationships. But what would you say disappointment has been replaced with?
Yeah, the first word was empowerment. I mean, disappointment has been replaced with knowing myself.
I just love that, Kari Lynn. Like there's a TED Talk in there. Yeah. Knowing myself as the antidote to disappointment. And in fact, that's very real in committed, long-term, passionate relationship. That is such a truth. Okay, Antiza says, I've so enjoyed being here for this rich conversation. It's late here in Denmark. I'm going to bed. I look forward to catching up over the weekend. Love you both so very much. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful, yes. Antiza. Thank you. And yeah, so maybe I'll start to wind up with following up on that amazing truth you just spoke, that the antidote to disappointment is empowerment and knowing yourself. And I just believe so firmly that relationships are the vehicle, the ultimate vehicle for personal growth. And that's the thing that so often couples reach out with one or both of them feeling like if the other one would just change in these ways, life would be amazing. And those changes probably need to happen, but that's not what makes life amazing. No. Those are like the accessories or the seasoning. The real meat and potatoes of the transformation is in the empowerment, the self-awareness, the learning to be uncompromising and knowing what you want and saying it and dealing with whatever emotions follow. So you've just expressed that so beautifully. It just warms my heart all over again. The privilege of coaching you. And Greg, Although I will say that I feel that way with every single couple that I have
Yeah.
ever coached, because this is like the elixir of life to really grow and engage with one another in such a deep and passionate way. And I want to make sure, I often forget because I just am so in love with these teachings and the content and speaking with you. And I'm actually working to remember to really emphasize that if you're watching and you want this,
Mm.
it's all available in the Aligned and Hot Marriage program, which is so reasonably priced, because this is the way we change the world. I'm glad for
Yeah.
politics and environmental policy and education and all these other things. But in fact, in my opinion, the most assured way to heal our world and our society is for couples to engage in this profound sacred work, which leads to more pleasure and connection. It's like a total win-win.
Totally. Yeah.
So any
Yeah.
final words, anything that you want to say, anything that you would have been glad to know? When, I mean, you're so juicy, you were just a yes, let's do it. But if someone has hesitation, what would you say?
Yeah, I would say if you are at all thinking about um, being guided in your change, because that's what this is.
Absolutely, yes.
It's us doing our own work here, but we need guidance sometimes. We need a map sometimes, and we need support sometimes, and it's it's worth it. It's just it's it's worth it. I mean, you've got a coach here. Alexandra said at the beginning, her coach. I'm a coach. I have a coach. Like, we even coaches have coaches, because we know the value of that support, and we know that we can't do it on our own. Yeah, I don't even want to say that. I don't like to say the word can't. Like, it's so much quicker and deeper when we don't do it on our own. When
Yeah.
we have someone there to, um, as we say, shine a flashlight on the places that we can't see.
And then you do it on your
And
own.
then you do it. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I think that's the perfect place to complete. I'm so grateful for your generosity, insight, and openness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.